Good morning, everybody. So today I'm going to show you how to create an armature for your Alebrije design. So your design, should be completed. It should be your animal. And an armature is basically just the skeleton of your animal. So we're going to be creating our armature out of the aluminum wire that I provided for you. And when you're done, it's going to look something like this. Now, it just depends on what your animal is, but I'm going to demonstrate how to make the bunny. So first off, you want to make sure you have your sketch the size that you're trying to get it. And it usually helps if you have it from the front and from the side so you can kind of see if there's any extra space. Because if you just make your line from here to here, that's actually a little bit shorter than if you made your line from there to there. So you kind of want to have an idea. Now your armature wire that you have is a slightly thinner gauge than mine, so it's a little bit easier for you to cut. I'm going to use these little snippers right here, but you can just use scissors for yours because you have a slightly thinner wire. So when you go to make your armature, the main thing is you want to make sure you have enough, because as you can see here, this is, in the ears, this is what the wire looks like, but we're going to be kind of doubling up the wire for most of the armature and just having, some smaller areas be the thin wire. So you got to make sure that you have enough wire so we can try to do this all in one shot if at all possible. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my picture sideways just so it's a little bit easier for me to measure things. So when I do this, what I like to do is I'll just lay my wire on top of the picture and I pretty much just double everything. So I'm measuring from here to here. I'm going to double that. I'm going to be like, okay, so for the legs, let's look over here. So the leg goes this way and then it goes this way and then it goes that way. So I do actually have to make sure I get room for all of that. So I'm going to double that. I'm going to double that. And then I'm going to add on the feet. And then I'll double that. And if I just left it there, really I've only done one leg. So you can either kind of go back and, add some more in one leg at a time, or you can make for legs and arms, you can just double everything again. So I'm gonna add in the arms here. I'm gonna say like there. So that's one arm. Here's two arms. Now I want to make sure I get the ears. So both sides of the ears. There's one ear. Here's two ears. And then just because we're going to be twisting it, I tend to just kind of, roll out and add on some extra. So I just added on a little bit of extra because you can always cut extra off and you can add some on if you need to. But I've always found that it's just a little bit easier to cut extra off than it is to add stuff in once you've cut it. So the next step for this is I like to bend it in half. So I'll hold both sides where it's been cut and then I pull along that until I get to the very end. So for me, since I'm doing the bunny, like if I was doing a figure, so like here's an example of a figure that I've started doing in Armature for the advanced class. If I was doing a figure, I would start with the head, but since this bunny has such big ears, I'm actually gonna start with the legs first. So once I find the little fold, this is going to be kind of the in between the legs, like right where the pelvis is. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to use my picture and I'm going to say, okay, so about to there is this part of the leg. I'm going to turn my picture and I'm going to go, so about to there is the next part of the leg. And then that's about the foot. And then, like I said, I like to add on just a little bit of extra because I know that I'm going to be twisting it. And as I twist it, it gets smaller. So I did both wires at the same time. So that way I would have both legs be the same length. A lot of times if you try to do one leg and you twist it and then you do the second leg, they end up coming out different sizes. So by bending them both at the same time, that'll kind of help you with that. So what I'm gonna do now is the actual twisting part. So you wanna hold your wire together down here, and you can either just twist it with your fingers, or because I do a lot of this, I just took, basically you could use a chopstick or a pencil, or I just have a little skewer thing that I like to stick it through the looped end right here, so I can just twist it, and that works pretty good. And that works pretty good till you get to about here, and then you can just twist it with your fingers a little bit tighter. Now your wire, like I said before, is a lower gauge than mine, so your twisting will actually be easier than my twisting. So once I have one leg twisted, and I still have a little loop on the end, that's fine. I'm gonna go ahead and do the same thing on my other leg. So same thing, I just go ahead and keep on twisting. And then once I have this part twisted, then I'm gonna move on to the spine. So for the spine, I wanna make sure that my spine is long enough. So if I just measured the spine from here to here, and I was like, I just went from there to there, that's one length, but I wanna make sure that I have enough kind of for the curve, because the legs are gonna come all the way down there. So like the legs are gonna start here. So I want a little bit extra. And then again, I'm gonna add a little bit more extra on. So for this part, like there's not really an easy spot for me to add in a chopstick. So instead of kind of holding down here and twisting it, I'm actually gonna do the opposite. And I'm gonna hold here and hold really close right there. So you can see like I'm gonna twist this side, but I'm gonna hold really close right here. And the wire will just kind of glide out of my fingers on this side. But this works good if you can't do the chopstick thing, like if you don't have a little loop at the end. But just kind of keep twisting, and then, check every so often and see how you're doing. I'm gonna go a little bit farther. And now I'm gonna add on the arms. So the arms, I can kind of basically do the same way I just did the legs. So right now it kind of looks like a person, right? So without a head. So I've got the spine and I've got the two legs, and then these are each gonna be an arm. So now Bunny's arms are a little bit shorter in the front, so it's about there, but then I wanna measure these both at the same time, so they're the same. So about there, and then I'm gonna give a little bit of extra. I'm gonna fold it. I'm gonna open it up. So, and then these ones are just like the legs, right? But they're just a little bit shorter. So I've measured them out. I folded the ends. I'm gonna hold right here. I'm gonna insert my little chopstick or skewer or whatever this is, pencil, whatever you need, or you can just use your fingers. That works too. But I'm gonna twist that up again. And then I can use my fingers to get the last little bit. And then I'm gonna switch to the other side. This always feels super awkward when you're very first starting this, because there's just a lot of wire. But once you get kind of down into this, there's not as much extra wire, so it gets a little bit easier. So I'm gonna twist the other side just like that first one. Okay, so now it's on to the head and the ears. So I kind of like to do the ears next, just to kind of make sure that I'm gonna have enough space for the ears, because we can build out the face with tin foil if we need to, but I wanna make sure that we have enough room for the ears. So I'm only gonna do like a couple little twists for the head, and then I'm gonna do ears. And then if I have any extra, then I'll add in some more face to make it rounded. So like if I have enough, I can add in the little bit of rounding right here. And if I don't, it's fine. It's not gonna hurt it either way. So I'm gonna line this up like that. And I'm gonna bend the ear and kind of make it match my picture. This is why it's kind of important to have as good of a picture as you can. So that way for stuff like this, you can kind of match it. And then you want to make sure that these are secured. If you just have like random things hanging off to the side, it doesn't, it'll poke through your clay later, and you don't want it to poke through your clay later. So what I'll end up doing, I've got this one twisted. I'm just going to take this little bit of extra and I'm going to twist it around the middle. Now, if you need to, like, you can use the edge of your table to kind of push on it. Like I said, your wire is actually thinner than mine, so it's a little bit easier. If you do have a pair of pliers, you can use a pair of pliers to kind of help move it along. And since mine's a little bit on the thicker side and I have some, I'm going to use some pliers, but the pliers are not actually necessary. Okay, so then here's my other ear. And I'm going to do the same thing with this ear, where I'm going to just kind of wrap it around here just to secure it so it's not going to flop around. And I'm going to use my pliers, which, like I said, your wire is thinner than mine, so you won't need the pliers, or if you have some and you want to use them, that's fine, but it's not required for this part. So I've got kind of my ears shaped. So at this point, this is when, you know, you change this, where it looks kind of like a person with giant ears, into this. So we'll start with the legs, and you can see, like on my drawing, this is why I want you to look at life, because a lot of times if you don't look at how a leg is actually positioned, you'll end up with something like this instead. If you make your armature look like this, it's going to look more like the Velveteen Rabbit, like a doll or a stuffed animal, versus an actual animal, and tends to show less movement. So if you're looking at a picture of a real rabbit from the side, you can see their knee is up here, and this is like their ankle area. So the wire is pretty bendy, so you just kind of make sure you leave yourself a little space for the hips. So like you want to have your wire come out a little bit, so like it comes out a little bit before it changes direction again. So once I leave the little spot for the hips, I'm going to bend it over, and I'm going to bend it over for where the knee is, and then I'm going to bend it again for the feet. And then the main thing is you want to try to keep both sides even, like I've said before. So fold it to leave a little area for the hips, fold it to leave a little area for the knee, and then bend it again to make the foot area. So now I have the start of my legs. So it's kind of the same thing for the arms. Like it always looks like to me like bunnies are kind of slumping their shoulders, but they still need some shoulder area. So you're going to kind of curve around the shoulder area, and then you can see like they end up with the little elbow. So like shoulder comes kind of down here, and then it goes back for the elbow and then comes forward. So this looks kind of funny, where it's like here's the shoulder, and then here's the elbow, and then here's the little wrist and stuff. So we're going to go ahead and add that in. Make a little bunny. Okay. So now I've got my kind of basic armature. On this one, you can see I've spent some more time on the ears, shaping them out so they're more of this shape. You can always set this on the table and push down with your pencil on the end to make it a little more pointy. That's cool. But really, our armature is basically done. Now, when you are done with this, if it's super huge, like you want to try to get it as close to this as you can. But if it, like this size is good, this size would be good. But if you come and your bunny is, you know, twice the size of this, then at least for this project with the amount of clay that you have, you want to untwist some of your wire and kind of scale it back a little bit. The same idea works for all different animals, because, you know, if I took this bunny and I wasn't making a bunny, if I was making a horse, I would make these two a little bit longer, and I would change the position for the legs, right? But if I have it this way, it's going to be more like a horse or a dog or something like that. So armature, the skeletons are basically the same regardless of what creature you're doing. It's just you got to pay attention to how long the legs are. Like a bunny's legs in the front are shorter than the